Welcome to Louie's Restaurant, where you can sit and chat with friends and foes alike. No need to worry about any attacks, so leave your gun and take a cannoli while we all chat on this week's episode on ornaments. Hi, welcome everyone. This is Greg, and this week we have a guest host of Olivia. She is joining us to talk about ornaments from the perspective of a newer player. We also have our co-host with us, CJ.
Hello. Hello, everyone. How's it going? Um, should be an interesting one for some of you guys today. Um, should help some of our newer players get a better perspective of what you're saving your coins to get. Um, we could just, should we jump straight into this? Olivia's got some questions. Maybe, maybe some of these will help a few of you. Uh,
Absolutely. I think it's actually a great time for us to be talking about this because I think 2 weeks ago we finished our last FCL season, and this week KCL started. So now we have the shop available again, and people are going to be wondering what they should spend their FCL coins on.
Okay, so maybe starting right off the script, completely different, but what do you find is the biggest difference in the amount of coins that you get in regards to FCL versus KCL?
uh, there is, um, there is quite a drastic difference. Um, Obviously, we now have the Fez upgrades, which can change it. I'm pretty sure they won't. I don't think that has been tested yet, but I am pretty sure that the Fez development league coins count. Yeah, FCL and KCL. So that's obviously going to depend on what you earn from the event as well. Um, but usually, if I'm right, you get, I think. It's been a while since we've had KCL. I think it's around 300, 400 for a win compared to FCL, where you're close to 1,000 for a win.
So then it requires a lot more dedication when you're playing the KCL, in your opinion?
It does. Yeah, it does. There's a bigger risk that comes with KCL as well because you have it's been mentioned in our last episode where we spoke to Sterling about people creating super teams because you can send out a code to your friends on older servers or any server, in fact, and you can all band together and have some of the strongest mansions. And if you run into them, you're not going to have a fun time. Um, Fortunately, that is part of it. It makes it a bit more interesting, I think.
Right,
Yeah,
and is that the only?
I'm sorry, Olivia. I was
That's
gonna
okay.
branch on to what CJ said is that the KCL operates a little bit differently in that there's no like family ranking, and as you move up within the SCL rankings, you kind of get more pairings with people that are in the same group as you. And KCL does not operate in that same manner, so it can be incredibly unfair that you can be lower level mansions and five of you, and you're paired against super teams of, five M37s, for example. Um, and so I think a lot of people probably play this for the ability to just gain the coins that they need for um, FCL, say, or at the FCL shop, like ornaments and speed ups and stuff like that.
And is that the only place that you can get the coins, or can you get coins in other places?
Um, Packs that they've released that do include, I believe, is 1,000 coins, which obviously work for the shop. Um, Hold on, I'll find it right now. I've still got my phone open at the moment. We've got it's a lucky pack, and yeah, you get 1,000 league coins, some primary or advanced ore, a little bit of cash, a little bit of oil, and some speed ups and gems.
So that's more in like the
Depending,
direction of spenders, right? Like if you were a non-spender, pretty much you're just gonna have to hustle it out.
Yeah.
yeah, for spenders out there, um, you you're not going to invest 40, $50 into into a pack. So it is a lot more of a grind. But I find it more satisfying when you grind it out because you give it all of that.
Hmm.
Brings a lot more value to it, and hopefully for some people that makes them a lot more cautious when they do come to spend their coins and they get the correct ornaments for them, uh, depending on their force and what they use in, and hopefully that helps people. Um, yeah, because I've noticed a lot of people just buy ornaments for the sake of having it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And personally, I think that not buying the packs encourages people to actually participate in FCL and KCL and get those points. Um, and I know some people are kind of like hesitant about joining, or they're not really sure what to do. And so because of that level of um, inexperience, they don't join. Um, Not necessarily that they buy the pack at that point, but they just don't join. But getting the coins for FCL and KCL is an encouragement for them to do that type of team play versus just buying the pack and kind of like getting what you want out of the shop, regardless of whether or not you participated.
I agree. I also think like a little bit off of the topic just a little, but I do think it's important, even if you don't know a lot of people in the game, that you still participate, even just signing up yourself, because you'll just automatically go into a team if no one signs with you in KCL, and then you'll actually get the chance to play with, say, more experienced players that maybe you can learn a lot about those from as well. Just saying.
Yeah, I was actually I was saying that to someone earlier on a call earlier this afternoon, because they've never seen KCL before. They don't have an idea what it is. So I'm running through that, and you can sign. A lot of people do sign up, and they're unable to make it at the time. You still earn whether you win or not, like win or lose. So it is something you should always take advantage of. Get those coins, whether you can play at that time or not. But it needs to be taken advantage of, especially for a lot of the non-spenders. Um,
I would.
yeah.
Okay, so in regards to ornaments, just like your own preferences, what attributes do you think are the most important to pick when you're building your ornament?
Well, I think there's a couple of different ways to go about it. Um, the ornaments, they offer a lot. I'm looking at a couple of the cheaper options when you're looking at spending your FCL coins. You can buy the Ring of Attack or the Ring of Life for fairly cheap. I think it's like 2,000 coins, if I remember correctly. And the Ring of Attack gives you an increase in attack percentages for your various troop types. So that will help you with things like KE if you're in a newer server, or server war if you're in one of the servers that have started server war. And then your Ring of Life will increase your HP for your various troop types. And I think both of those right off the bat help you with PvP play that comes with the game. Um, if you aren't quite sure about PvP yet because you are a new player and maybe this is your first time ever doing PvP, you can do something like increasing your block production through the gear ring or increasing your gathering speed through the weight ring. but I do encourage you guys to look into the PvP level ornaments because that is something that is a long-term play.
Okay.
Uh,
And then just on a side note, CJ, would you say it's more important because you can gain button men via building your ornaments in a certain way? Do you think that it's more important to have the extra button men when you're beginning, or do you think it's more important to have like the attack bonus or HP bonus?
so personally, at the beginning of well, early stages of a server, let's say, for example, the first few months, coordination is massive. Um, it it makes a massive difference, especially against non-spenders. Um, if you're a non-spender going up against a non-spender and you have ornaments with um, a higher troop input or coordination, um, you're gonna destroy usually what's in front of you. As time goes on, I would more suggest people to look into initiative. This was touched on our last subject as well, or our last video. Um, Initiative is super important. Now, early stages, you can get away with it. Um, if you've got loads of troops and they've just got initiative, you're going to slam them. But as time goes on, you know, everyone's starting to really build their forces. This is where initiative can make the difference, where you either strike first and you take out a lot of troops, that's all their power gone. You're most likely going to win the fight after that. Um, so, yeah, personally, I would say initiative is more important later on. Coordination's great at the start, but yeah,
And
later on.
and just to clarify, it's not you can't pick this just for people who are just starting out. This is all random
No,
when you're making them.
yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
Correct.
it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. And if you see anyone with perfect, if they share it in their family chat or world chat showing you they've got these perfect ornaments, that's taken a lot of time.
Or they just got very lucky,
Mm,
maybe.
yes.
Some people do get very lucky. Yeah. Um, there's a few I've got, but actually one. Um, it is random. It is completely randomized. I've got lucky once, and I've been grinding the whole time for the others. It usually takes forever, but it's so worth it.
Yeah,
The good thing is,
the good thing about ornaments is that they have a ornament creation event. I can't remember what the exact term is, but you can immediately make ornaments without having to wait for the build time on that in your workshop. And so you can see what gets made, what the attributes are that you received, and determine on that screen within the event whether or not you want to keep the ornament or if you want to break it down. And so you can build out 50 ornaments because at the 50 mark is where you can have that chance of getting a reward attribute. So you can build these out real quick, and your chance or your luck kind of increases during that event of getting something a little bit better quality as far as that ornament goes.
okay.
Um,
And so I just want to say also just make sure, like, don't lose hope if you're listening and you've been getting really short ornaments. Oh, pardon, I'm already cursing. But just make sure that you just keep at it because it can take a while, but it is worth it. So don't lose hope or don't compare yourself to other people. Everybody's journey is their own.
Absolutely. The great thing about the ornaments in comparison to imprints, for example, is you can break down an ornament and get ore from it, whereas there's not an ability to break down an imprint yet. So you're kind of stuck with what you get over there versus ornament, you can kind of break it down and try again.
Okay, and so we've also kind of touched on now that obviously the first two probably beginner ones would be Ring of Attack or Ring of Life. But in both of your opinions, what do you think are the two best ornaments moving forward once you're a more advanced player?
This this all depends really on what forces you actually use. Um, it really does depend because um, there's a lot to factor in. I mean, you can just look at the ornament list yourself. There's so much to choose from. You know, for matches like KCO and FCO, you want to look more into like Crystal Hearts. They're going to give you a COG increase. You get a massive HP increase, and it doubles the effect in FCL. And I'm guessing it would be the same for KCL also. Um, Personally, what I've always chose to start off in these newer servers, just to get yourself more effective, is instantly get a ring of attack and a ring of life. Try to get some good buffs on there, try and get some good coordination or initiative, and then you can save up to around, I think it's 5,000, and get the obsidian stone ring. I've done this on most of the servers I've been on, and there's quite a lot it can offer you. So the main buffs this is going to give you is damage, damage attacking cities, battles in strongholds, resource battles, and also it includes onto cross servers, so it can be a long term ornament if you choose to keep it. It also gives dodge in ordinary battles, again, including server wars, which is it's amazing, really. If you're into these new dodge forces, I'd highly suggest getting that. And if you compare that with a good initiative or a good uh, capacity increase, that'd be amazing. And also, you get HP. You're gonna get there's you get these little add-ons as well called collections. So that's something also to keep an eye on when you're making these ornaments. Don't just throw them away straight away. Make sure you keep an eye on them and actually read what they're giving you before you throw them away, because you could be throwing away something with a good collection buff that you need. So it's always good to keep an eye on them. Sorry,
No, that's
um,
perfect. Can you explain a little bit more about what you mean by collection? Just so like people who've never played it before.
okay, so for the people that are confused, um, obviously, say you're on your game right now, you're on, it could be the mansion, it could be the map, it could be the block. You just click items, you go into ornaments, in equipment, and you just click collected. Now that's a collection section. Um, these will pop up usually right at the bottom of your ornament buffs after you make them. It's like all the others, completely randomized. Don't know if you're going to get it or not. Um, but it's always a good idea. Like I said, it's a good idea to keep an eye on it, because these are just extra increases to a certain troop set, um, or depending on what you've actually got, it could be a reduced damage to this, to that. It could be an extra dodge buff. It could be an extra damage buff. Could be an extra cob buff. You know, there's so many different ornaments. They all have their different collections to them, and they're usually always tied in with the main buffs. Um, but yeah, I would say Ring of Life, Ring of Attack, and then Obsidian Stone Ring. When we start getting into the later stages, where you've been saving up your lucky gemstones from the events, and You never know. There could be a rotation coming maybe to the KCL and FCL store. That'd be nice to see. Hopefully, one day. Um,
Hint, hint.
hint, hint, nudge, nudge, please. But I'd
I'll make
also
a note.
suggest to get off. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I might indirectly ask one of them to watch this. I shouldn't have done that.
Okay, so
I'd also mention, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but the owl amulet and the reindeer amulet, they're both ornaments. They're both amazing. You get reduced damage, damage is a big thing in the game. From the owl, get increased damage from the reindeer. You could also look into ornaments like the torch. That's another good one as well. But again, this all depends on what kind of play you are and what you're actually looking for. I think I've said enough. I'm gonna let
Speaking of the owl ornament, for example, I got that one recently off of the Easter event that happened back in April, I believe. So you can get ornaments outside of FCL. They do come around, but I wanted to mention this one because I got that one, and right after I received it was the ornament creation or build event that we had, and so I spent quite a bit of time building out this particular ornament for what I needed for that account, and I ended up getting two that I thought were pretty good. They can be better, but I kept them and I've blocked them so I don't accidentally break them down. But one of them was reduce damage on drive-by buttonmans suffer damage by 20%, and the max is 20%. So that was a nice one. I would prefer that it have the additional like sub attributes where it either increases the capacity or gives me initiative, but I did not get lucky with that one in that regards. But I do like the 20% on that. And then the other one I got was reduce the massacre button suffer damage by 18%. Again, top is 20, so it's close enough. And it also says wear this will reduce the drive-by buttons men suffer damage by 10%. So that was a combo ornament that I ended up keeping. And for that particular account, it's not a drive-by account, it is a guns account. So that massacre one is one that I primarily use, but I do end up switching out for the other one whenever the situation arises and needs it.
okay, I also want to just say, because you said something in passing that I think is important to point out as well. So you did say about locking it in. Can you just explain a little bit more about that?
So when you have, yeah, so when you have an ornament or you create an ornament and you really like what the attributes are, and like for instance, the one that's 20%, I was like, I'm the type of person that I will clean out things, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't accidentally break down something that I wanted to keep. So what I did is opening up my, okay, so you go under items, you go in equipment and ornament, and then you find the ornament that you want to keep. And in the bottom right corner, after you've clicked on the ornament, there's an option that says lock in. You click lock in, and then that secures the ornament. You cannot break it down at that point.
Have either of you ever accidentally broken one down that you did not mean to?
it hurts. It hurts. Yeah, I've done it a few times. Yeah, they don't feel good.
Okay, so coming
that's
go.
gone.
I was gonna say, just coming off the tail end of like, you guys were talking about all the good ones and like ones that you would prefer to pick. Is there a specific ornament that you feel is not really valuable in the game and or your least favorite of all of the ornaments?
Oh, um,
Think at a certain point for me, like at a certain point in my gameplay, the gear earring and the wheat earring that I was talking about earlier, just the blue versions of it aren't really something that I would wear myself. I would probably give those up. But they do have an upgraded versions of both of those. They're now orange. So there's the advanced wheat earring and the advanced gear earring. That would be something that I might consider if I had either one of them, but it's not like something that I'm immediately jumping towards because there are other things um, that I would prefer over those first.
100% agree on that. Um, yeah, honestly, I feel like those two would be the less desirable. Um, Early stages of the game, they're great. If you've got a farm, or it all depends on the situation. If you're using it on a farm, it's great. I mean, keep it, but then also keep saving for these bigger and better ones. Um, those two would be the two that I choose to remove. Um, and again, anything that is blue now can be switched over to an upgraded orange or gold version. So those would be the less desired as time goes on, but it depends really on the player, the the time spent on the server, and obviously if it's a farm or not.
Okay, now if it was just a regular player, not a farm, but they're a non-spender and they don't intend to spend, then do the wheat earrings become something that's significantly more valuable to them? Not so much when they're PvPing, but like when they're just growing.
Yeah, for
For,
gathering, it's great. Yeah, I think it's
well,
great.
speaking as someone that spends sporadically, I would not consider myself like a big, huge spender by any means. I spend sporadically and I spend very carefully on certain packs. So for me personally, I still would not use those. I have like a lot of farms. I think I've mentioned it in the past. I have like 10 plus farms. So if I was to get them, it would be for that. My farms would have them because that's who's doing the main pushing on gathering. For my main account, I would be focused more on things that would benefit PvP play or support for PvP play for those people that are like the bigger hitters.
Okay. What do you guys think is the, oh, sorry.
No, that's all right. I was going to say I do agree, but then I also try and think maybe the player isn't as interested in PvP yet, so maybe they'd invest into growth. I'm just trying to think from other people's perspectives. But I do understand PvP is a massive part of this game. Um, I guess it all depends on the player, really. That's my preference. Sorry to interrupt. What was you going to
No,
say?
not at all. On like a little side note, do you think that it's the R6's responsibility to kind of give lessons to the players about ornaments so that they're better prepared when they join your family? Or do you think that it's the player's responsibility to do the research to know what it's about?
That's that one freak.
Oh, that's a tough question. Um, Ideally, I mean, this to me, this is more like a leadership type question. Ideally, you want your leadership, whether there are five or six, whatever, to be knowledgeable in gameplay. And so this could be something that they would have to be able to answer and point their players in the right direction. Um, I also feel like the leadership can't make the decisions for the players. So they can guide them and be like, okay, this is what these particular ornaments offer. Depending upon your gameplay, like CJ has mentioned, you have to choose what works best for you. So like maybe the wheat earring, for example, does work better for somebody at their particular point in gameplay. And that's something that they choose to invest their FCL coins in, and that's 100% okay. But I don't feel like the leadership should like encourage someone who has zero desire to be a PvP player to go out and get like an orange owl ornament, for example, because they're just that's not going to be beneficial to them. But they can guide them on how to do ornaments, how to look into it to figure out what works for their account and what they're wanting to do for their gameplay.
Okay, very cool. What do you think in your own personal playing, what do you think is the biggest mistake that's made when people are crafting ornaments or what they do with them after?
I don't think that they change them out enough. I think some do. Like I was looking through some players' ornaments today and I noticed some changes, particular in the event that they're in. They don't need certain ornaments for PvP, so they've changed them out for others, which is great. So they're cognizant of what they're doing in the game, where and what they need. They may not need a PvP ornament right now, so they're getting something that increases rubber production or chances of rubber when they're gathering, for example. Um, and also being able to switch out based upon troop types. So massacre over drive-by or assassin over bombers, for example, because you may end up finding in later gameplay that you need that flexibility to adjust for different troop types that you need to send out for different situations.
Yeah,
Okay.
they do need to be considered and switched out. I know a lot of players that have made the fatal mistake of changing their idea of what they'd use as their quote unquote main force, and they haven't considered to switch out their ornaments. So their ornament buffs were, say, let's say there were knives, for example, and they wanted to build a driver force. Um, so they haven't done any work on drivers for ornaments, and they've just used the knife buffs from their ornaments, and it didn't work well for them at all. So it needs to be considered highly um, what you're actually going to be doing with your ornaments.
So in your opinion, do you think then that you should have multiple ornaments for multiple things? Like if you get a ring of attack, you should say have one that's more knife based, one that's more gun based, one that's more bomb based.
Yes.
So yeah, so I
Yeah.
keep what I do when I'm making them. Sorry, I need to mute for 1 second. I didn't want to. I didn't want to cough on you. um, so what I do when I make ornaments is I just craft loads until it won't let me craft anymore. Usually I save all my crystal until the free to build or insta build event comes along. Um, and then I fill the ornament bag up and I go through it and I sift through them all. And even let's say if I'm building a drive-by force, um, I won't not. So let's say I find the perfect bomb buffs with some great initiative or some great coordination. I wouldn't just scroll past it. I would lock it because it is important. You never know when you're gonna need those buffs, and they are hard to come by if you come across a good one, even if you're not using it in your main force. I mean, years later down the line, if you're still a part of that server, you might need it one day. You never know. People change their minds, and it'd be good to have a backup, really. Um, Also, if you're joining other people's cobs and they're asking you to send a different troop type to what you're used to sending, at least you have a backup that way. You can switch out your ornaments if you have them saved. So it is important to save them, especially if they're good, regardless if they're your desired troop set or not.
Yeah, I definitely
Okay.
agree with everything CJ said there.
Okay, and then I have a question. So when you're going into battle like PvP, do you check what other people have as ornaments? And then how do you gauge or assume what they might have based on what you see on their profile?
Uh, that can be a tough one. Sometimes it goes down to knowing your enemy. Um, if you have heard from other players, you know what they're using for troop type wise, then you can kind of gauge what they're going to have on their ornaments. So yeah, it is very you got to be quite considerate to what your enemy is using, especially if you're going to hit their mansion. Um, you really need to think about it.
So could you also like could you look at their profile and then see like if their imprint is if their main imprint say is knives, like a power imprint, then you would see that and then say they had like an owl ornament, you would make the assumption then that it's probably going to be knife based.
So if I saw that, for example, if I saw a high uh, power imprint, and then, like you just said, for example, see the owl imprint, I'm gonna suggest that that player has either got a reduced damage on the owl imprint from massacres or drive-bys. Um, it is all speculating. Can never be 100%, because that player could just put that on there because it's nice and shiny. I know some players that do it just to flex, but it's not actually worth having. So again, it comes down to actually knowing the player. Um, but you can combat things like that. For example, with the damage reduction, you could have an increase attack because attack and damage are two separate different things. Um, or you could just go all out with the reindeer and just max out your damage as much as possible. But I would, in that situation, I'd suggest, getting really good attack buff, and you could pair it with a damage buff, um, just to make it a bit more effective.
Okay. And then I kind of have like a random question. How would you guys feel? Because we're always talking about new things, it'd be cool for new things to be updated. How would you feel if you got the ability to like put three rings together, like you get to with imprints, like if you could like merge or join your ornaments to create like a super ornament?
I think that's an interesting concept. Like if you could merge ornaments to increase your chances of getting a reward attribute, I would do it.
Yeah, just like something similar to like how you put three purple imprints together to create like, oh, if you want forward and you want attack or whatever, you can do the same thing for your rings. You're like, oh, I have 400 button men, but then you also have to have some kind of like like if the purple dust for imprints, you would have to have something like that for ornaments that you'd have to like earn through events or something, and then you could merge the rings together to create better, stronger.
Yeah, I definitely think it's an interesting idea, interesting concept. I think the players might like it if there was reward in the merge. Um, and then obviously, what comes with a merge comes the ability to try to unmerge it because maybe it didn't give you what you wanted. I'm sure people would probably complain as well, is the point on that one.
You can't please everyone.
Exactly. Can't please everybody.
I do like that idea. But then you could have some argue and say, these spenders are going to have a bigger advantage because they could make super ornaments, so to say. Um, I do really like the idea though. But,
I mean, in reality, spenders are going to have an advantage regardless.
oh, of course, yeah. Of course.
And I think it's still kind of luck of the draw too, right? Like even if you were merging them, you can't guarantee you're going to get everything that you wanted from it. So even people that are not spenders would have the ability to somehow come up with this super ornament.
Yeah, there is of chance there. So I think that kind of evens the playing field a little bit.
So that's really it for my questions. Is there one piece of advice that you would give me when it comes to ornaments or crafting or like as a newer player to set myself up for the best success?
Um, I think the biggest piece of advice that I would give you and any newer player is don't be afraid of ornaments and crafting them. They are very different in regards to imprints in that way. So craft and craft and craft and craft and craft to your little heart's content until you get what you want. And all the ones that you crafted that aren't worth even looking at, like your 5s and 10% on whatever, break those down and try again. Just don't be afraid to click the craft button and definitely take advantage of um, that event that comes along that allows you to craft really quickly as many as you want.
What Spriggs just said. Um, I'd suggest saving your crystals uh, and then dumping them all on that day because you do get rewards for the more you make. Obviously, depending on the tier of ornament you make, depends on how many points you get. Um, but it is well worth saving. So at the moment, I think I've got like 8, nearly 9k green crystals. So I'm gonna dump a load of them when the event does come along, and then in turn, if you hit a certain amount of points, your reward is more crystals. So you will obviously, in a sense, profit because you're benefiting yourself and getting rewards from it at the same time. You just got to hope you get lucky with the buffs that you get. Um, that's about it.
Yeah.
Obviously, depending on whatever whatever kind of play style you want to do, depends on what ornaments you want to choose. So you want to be
Yeah, ab absolutely. And I would say going into both FCL and KCL, have a goal in mind for what you want to purchase with your coins. Um, and then work towards that goal, whether it's a 2,000 coin ornament or 5,000 or even a 10,000. Have a goal and make sure that um, what you're doing is always working towards that goal. Don't spend so many coins on things like speeds or heals if you don't have to. That way you can save for the ornament that you're wanting to get.
Well, that's it for me, guys. I think you guys have covered everything that I wanted to talk about.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Olivia. And I hope that not only that we answered your questions, but any other new players' questions out there who was able to listen to this podcast, thank you for joining us. And if you do have questions that we were not able to answer today, please send us a DM on Discord or uh, create a comment below this video in YouTube, and we'll be happy to address those.
Thanks for having
Cool.
me, guys.
Sorry, I've got one question before we wrap this all up.
Oh,
And,
Lord.
Oh no.
we I want to say, just like what Frick said, thank you so much for coming on and giving us your opinions and your views, giving us your questions, because hopefully this can help yourself and a lot of other players on the community. But I do have one question for you, and
Mm-hmm.
that should wrap up the video. So, are you ready for the question?
As ready as I'm ever gonna be.
Right. Would you rather an unlimited amount of bacon but no gold, or
Bacon.
unlimited? I don't even get.
The
Bacon
answer is
forever.
always bacon. Hashtag
It's
bacon
unlimited,
forever.
but you couldn't even finish the sentence.
That's because there is no other answer. The answer is always bacon. Bacon
So you don't
forever.
need the rest of the questions. Okay, no, I'm not going to argue with that. Okay, um, I love that. Straight to the point. Don't care. Like, well, yeah. Thank you. Um, we do really appreciate you coming on again.
You don't
Uh,
see them, but I'm sending tons of rainbows and hearts to everyone.
oh, no.
Thank you
Oh,
so
yeah.
much, Olivia. You did amazing. I really hope that this episode does well.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
You too.